All right, we are now joined by a very special guest. It is former MLB outfielder Ian Miller. You can hear him on the Nine Hole podcast wherever you listen. Ian, it's great to see you. We were just talking about you're crushing the content stuff. How's everything going?
Justin, it's a pleasure, dude. Thank you for having me. Excuse me, dude. Everything's been great. The content that I've been putting out has been well received from my audience, the people that I'm trying to make valuable, entertaining, educational content for, and so things have been going great. I'm just rolling along, man. That's like the short form answer to that right there.
Love that. So I told you this earlier, but just like I found out about your podcast and kind of like your story through the content you've been making on Instagram, especially like the Instagram reels you guys do are all super cool. What first got you into the idea of making content? What kind of like was what spurned this?
Man, I I always kind of had it in here a little bit that I feel like I do well in front of the camera. I feel like I can talk a little bit. I feel like I could try to make some people laugh and succeed at it, right? And maybe use some humor in ways of like providing information or education, right? So that was always kind of something in the back of my head. I always watched Twitch. I always watch, people entertaining for a crowd or providing some sort of value or, relief from everyday stress. I always kind of envisioned myself maybe being able to provide that. And, baseball was the lowest hanging fruit, is the thing that I know the most. And so that's kind of where everything was directed towards. And so it's been fun, dude. It's been fun. I'm always trying to like make it beneficial and entertaining as well as educational. You're gonna get something out of it. So it's been tough coming up with stuff, dude. But like, I'm just scratching the surface, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for baseball content out there. I feel like that's one of the sports that like doesn't get because I feel like everybody that has a podcast wants to talk about the NFL and just football. But there's so much room and just space for people like yourself who have had experiences playing baseball that I have never have and will never able to be to like do the stuff that you have done. So it's cool that like you're able to kind of like, shine a light on some of that stuff and let some of the people out there know about it.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm trying to literally use, my experiences, the things that I've learned, the things that I've gone through, have overcome, and the things that I've like accomplished up until this point. I'm just trying to use that to like empower, inspire, like benefit the next generation, and let dudes know in the nine hole, which is the majority of people that are listening to my stuff, like, man, I did it. You can do it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask about. It's just like the name of the podcast, the Nine Hole Podcast. Like growing up when you're playing the game, like you're right. Like the nine hole is not something that anybody playing the game is like. I don't. Nobody grows up wants to be a nine hole hitter. Just put it like that. Um,
Absolutely.
but what does the nine spot in the order mean to you?
So it means obviously just like a whole bunch of grit, resilience, man. I sit and I think about it a lot. It's kind of a mindset. It's a a shield of armor. It's a way to go about things. It's like having a chip on your shoulder, dude. It's you embody the whole nine hole mindset. Nobody wants to be in the nine hole. So I would take that as like it would be a fucking chip on my shoulder. Like, dude, I'm in the nine hole. I should be leading off. You know what I mean? And then you just kind of use it as fire. The nine hole is the type of like persona that embodies just like grit and resilience, just full speed ahead. That's how it was for me, dude. So that's how the nine hole got started. Obviously, I was kind of like an underdeveloped, slow, slow to mature, right? Kind of like a pipsqueak dude in high school. I hit in the nine hole. I walked on to Wagner College in Staten Island, New York. Ended up getting drafted 14th round, progressed through the minor leagues, made it to the big leagues at 27 years old, and it was all in the nine hole, dude. Like it was all as an underdog, like undervalued, underpaid, just scrappy player that was just always had a chip on his shoulder, was always out to prove somebody wrong, regardless of like where I was hitting in the order. And so that is that's the story behind the nine hole, dude. Sick.
Second leadoff hitter, though. That's what I
That's
always like
right.
to say.
Yeah, dude. It's a great way of looking at it. I've had it explained to me like that as well, dude, and I love it. I would always be able to do better if I use stuff to like piss me off and use stuff to like fire me up, as opposed to sometimes looking at it that way. I'd be like, dude, I'm in the nine hole, as opposed to like, oh, sick, it's the second leadoff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you're fast. Yeah, exactly. You're setting the table for the other guys.
For sure,
Um,
brother.
You mentioned walking on at Wagner College. Walk on is just like it's such a cool thing in sports, and now it's become more popular. Just across the sports landscape. I'm a Baker Mayfield guy, so like that's obviously how I'm.
Love it.
Like, I'm a fan. I'm drawn to those guys like yourself who have just been like had to scrap and claw for everything they've gotten. But like, did walking on like how did that kind of shape? We were already kind of like a gritty player before that, but like, did the walk on thing kind of cement that's who you're gonna be?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, man. Walking on is I felt a little bit different from everybody else when I immediately got on campus. You could tell people were on the baseball team. They're wearing Wagner baseball gear before I even like get in the locker room and, I have a locker and stuff. It's like you almost feel a little like on the outside looking in. I felt that way in high school with my development, right? I was a late bloomer. That's the word I've been looking for the past 5 minutes. I was a late bloomer, and like, yeah, just a little scrappy dude in the nine hole, and being able to buy into that walk on persona. It's like, dude, I had to create a character almost. It's like I'm a character when I'm on the field. It's like I got a chip on my shoulder. I'm pissed off. I'm full speed ahead, dude. Like that's how I had to make it to the big leagues. That's the only way I would have been able to make it to the big leagues. And dude, walking on at Wagner College definitely was how it all started, bro. Is the mentality right off the bat.
Is it hard to find a balance between playing that kind of like chip on your shoulder, pissed off mindset versus like trying to be, even keel, not let everything get to you? Like, is it hard to be all the time playing like that?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. It's exhausting both like mentally and physically. And so for sure mentally, the mental like it's not even just playing like that. It's just going through the game of baseball is the longer you play, the more that you understand that it is a mental grind, if not or as much, if not more than the physical grind. And so, yeah, I would struggle and I would feel like I would burn out sometimes mentally. Like halfway through the year, I'd be like, dude, I'm diving head first and shit into first base. You know what I mean? I'm going all out, dude. I'm diving all the time, like I'm at full speed ahead, ground ball back to the pitcher. I'm running my ass through the bag and like dude, yeah, it'll take a toll on you. So I would burn out sometimes. Later in my career is when I found out the importance of like mindfulness and having mental skills to be able to leave the game at the field and go home, decompress, and like meditation and stuff. And that's really what benefited me, man. So it took me a little while to figure that out, dude. It definitely was exhausting. You know what I mean?
Do you think the guys that have had that like security, that like peace of mind of like, I'm going to be in the lineup every day, like that, they have an easier time with that than you? Like, every at bat is like life or death.
Yes, dude. So yeah, I do. I think that if your back is not up against the wall, like if there's nothing that's riding on it, there is a chance that there's a slight percentage chance that you don't put forth all your effort if you know that there's another day tomorrow. You know what I mean? So like some of my best years were years that I didn't start on opening day professionally. So it's like usually the opening day lineup is the A guys, you know what I mean? And so I'd be on the outside looking in. I'd be like, dude, I'm fucking taking these spots, bro. I'm fucking taking these spots, bro. No way is this dweeb starting in front of me. You know what I mean? That's how I would look at it. And my mission then was to show up and take that shit. That's what my mission was. So I didn't look at it like, oh, dude, this is my spot. You know what I mean? And honestly, didn't necessarily always have that. Like even the year that I debuted in 2019, I was 27 years old in AAA, and like I didn't start the first game. Came off the bench. Like it always kind of outside looking in, dude. And I'm going off on a tangent there, bro. But yeah, yeah, I know. I just kind of spun out of control right there with my story. So let me pull it back in.
No, it's do you find yourself rooting for similar guys across the sports land or in baseball in particular of just like guys who had to scrap and claw for everything you have? Or are those your type of players?
Yes, dude. I for sure. I love those guys, man. You can kind of tell the older you get and the higher you progress through professional baseball, you're able to see those guys, see who they are, see how they go about their work, how they carry themselves. And the dudes that like scrap and claw and they're grateful for everything that they get, it shines not just kind of in their on-field performance, but more so like how they handle the media, how they handle fans, how they interact with their teammates, how they're regarded by their teammates, man. It all kind of goes into it.
Who are some of the grittiest guys you either played with or played against?
The grittiest guys that I played with. or played against, man. I would Nick Martini. Nick Martini. So he's with the I think he's with the Reds right now, dude. When I think about a dude that is just absolutely gritty, uh first one of the first guys at the yard as a vet, just to get a workout in, and like works hard in batting practice, works hard all the time, is never not working or doing something at the field. It's absolutely crazy. And then no matter what's going on, if he's not playing or he's coming off the bench or he's kind of going through a slump, he rinses and he repeats the next day. It's just true grit. Oh, and like I latched onto that my last year of my career. That's probably the dude in my mind, Nick Martini. And like I think he hit a home run or two on opening day this year as like it might have been a minor league free agent sign, made that fucked around and made the team like hit 2 home runs opening day. It's like he's 30 something years old. Dude's older than me. And like he's doing this on opening day. It's awesome, bro. It's awesome to see. I think Nick Martini is the like true testament of the word grit that I've played with.
Oh, that's the best. I wanted to talk about a couple things from your career. I was going back and doing my research on it. So I saw that you're a prolific base stealer when you played, but I thought that was interesting because when you were kind of running around, it wasn't necessarily in vogue at baseball for teams to be like stealing all the time. I mean, I watched Moneyball and it was just like, you're not supposed to steal because you're giving them an out basically.
Yeah.
Did you always have the green light to run when you were playing? And how did you kind of see organizational base stealing philosophies evolve?
Dude, yeah, always had the green light when I was playing. Coming up with the Mariners organization, you have that you build that reputation, and you have that within the Mariners organization where it's like, hey, that guy can run, that guy can steal a bag. He's got to refine his stolen base like prowess. He's got to refine the technique of stealing bags at a higher level, right? A higher percent chance of success and stuff. But like you build that reputation. So I've always had the green light. It was different. So like different managers have different philosophies in how they run their team, right? But all of my managers were always like, Ian, you have the green light, go. And like if you get caught stealing, go again. And like we'll break it down, just go. And so I found myself a lot of times playing it safe where it's like, hey, I think it's 50-50 if I can. This guy slide steps and he's a 1-2 home, but the catcher is a 1-9. So that's a 3-1, like glove to glove. That's quick as fuck, dude. I don't know if I can test that. And so, like, I would play it safe. Where it's tough because it's got to be a perfect throw home, it's got to be a perfect catch, perfect transfer, perfect throw to second base, perfect tag. It's hard to throw somebody out, dude. But I feel like I played safe a lot, and I wanted to protect my percentage. I wanted it to be like an 80% or higher clip, where it's like, hey, if I go 8 out of 10 chance for my career, I know I can go. So I always had the green light. The philosophies are different. So when I got to Minnesota, and like in Chicago in the big leagues, I had the red light on the bases. So like it's different in the big leagues. It's not. It's like minor leagues. You can get caught stealing and it doesn't impact anything. But if you get caught stealing and it impacts a major league baseball game, dude, that's a different story. That's a different story. So like I got traded over to the Minnesota Twins when I was supposed to be kind of like a base running stolen base threat and a defensive replacement in the outfield. Got my first like base hit, got 2 base hits in one day in the big leagues. And like, I got red lights on the bags. I got red lights. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about that. It's about playing the percentage, and like, there's chess moves and there's sometimes unwritten rules, like in poker where it's like, hey, it's either you hit on 16 or you don't. Like, at least before the rule changes in baseball, like, they're like, hey, the book says don't steal here. So like, that's what they're just going to go with. So it's like, there's different situations and there's different kind of philosophies surrounding the stolen base in different organizations, dude. It's cool to see how it progresses. And it's cool how like some managers have styles of being aggressive as hell and some are kind of like reserved on the bases, dude.
It is cool to see like how teams now have become so much more accepting of it. I live in DC, so I watch the Nationals a lot, and they run all the time. Everybody on that team I feel like has 10 plus. And the Red
Love it.
Sox, the Red Sox the same way. Red Sox had like 9 in a game against the Yankees the other day. Do you think
Wow.
that's a yeah? Trevino was not having fun that day.
No, no,
behind
no.
the
I
plate.
bet, dude.
Do you think that's a way for like teams like kind of like the Nationals and the Red Sox who are like trying to get back to being good? Like, do you think that like playing small ball, running around, is that Is that something that other teams can kind of latch on to try to help pull them out of some of their stuff? It's definitely working.
Dude, yeah. So at least from a slumping standpoint, like I can get stuff rolling for sure. But also, dude, the small ball aspect of it is like you don't have to go out and sign $150 million worth of small ball. You can bring somebody up and rotate them from AAA for all I care. Like people can get bunts down and people can run sub, you know, four flats down to first base. Like, dude, I think yeah, I think small ball might be the way, especially with strikeouts, up and like pitchers throwing 106 now and like injuries and sticky stuff. It's all crazy, but like small ball is always going to be there. I feel like you can teach it. You can't necessarily teach dude, of course, like you can teach somebody how to hit a home run, but that takes an insane amount of talent. Everything has to kind of line up. I feel like it would be easier to get a bunt base hit down than it would be hit a home run, right? And you could probably replicate that, teach that, and administer that in hopes of like getting out of a slump. Would be my opinion.
Yeah. And you've
You
mentioned
know?
it, like bunting has been so important in your career and just like to get you where you ended up going. Like bunting was a big part of that.
Yeah, and I still, dude, like looking back, excuse me, I know I didn't do it enough. I definitely did not do it enough, dude, because I always felt like the first baseman and third baseman were down my throat playing in. So I was always like hesitant. And dude, yeah, I definitely could have utilized it more. You think about it over the entirety of a 140 game season, 160 game season, you get one bunt hit a week. Like that'll take you from 270 to 300, bro. You get one bunt hit a week, you know what I mean? Like accidentally lay one down, base hit. You never know.
We've talked about it on here, just like these big pull, like power sluggers like Joey Gallo, like they should absolutely be bunting for hits more if they're just going to open up that entire side of the field. Like that should be an easy way to get out of hitting 190.
Yeah, dude, you'd think so. You'd think so. I always like bunting was hard. Bunting is hard. You know what I mean? I feel like I would have a better chance with my skill set on getting a bunt base hit down as opposed to trying to hit a home run. Might not be the same way for other teams and stuff. I just feel like, dude, you could probably grab a couple guys out of AAA and be like, hey, man, attempt to put a bunt down one time each game. And like, you could probably get 2 hits out of 9, would be my guess. You know what I mean? Like, probably be surprised. It might be higher than we think. Get stuff rolling, dude. Get people on the base pillows.
Well, that's what it's all about. My favorite Brian O'Grady story that he told all year was like he was like a rookie in Cincinnati. He was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna drop a bunt down, and they immediately knew that he was gonna try to do that. So Chris Bryant was like in his face. Like how have you seen the difference between minor league and major league in terms of how they prepare for guys like yourself?
Oh man. So there's a scouting report on everything, right? There's tendencies on like pitches that I'm gonna go on the bases. There are like tendencies on when I'm gonna swing in the count. They measure and map everything. Baseball data and analytics is just insanely over the top. We know that we have access to everything. Everything is tracked. So like a team can have an individual, game plan for each situation, dude, and it's pretty high level, accurate stuff based off of like historical data, based off of how you've played from like the major leagues down to A ball, dude. They track everything, and so like computers, robots, AI, dude. I don't even know what it is, but like a computer can make a game plan, and the manager just executes it. Right? You've seen Moneyball, dude. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's fascinating to hear like how deep they go into all that stuff, but is there a play in baseball that disrupts all of that more than when somebody steals home? Because I feel like I've seen like Yelich stole home not that long ago. I feel like I've seen 5 guys off the top of my head this year alone. Like first of all, have you ever tried to steal home? Is it hard?
Dude, yeah, I've tried to steal home. I've done it. I think I did it once or twice in pro ball. Did it like straight up in college. Did it a couple times in high school. Dude, it's insane. It really is insane. And I have not been caught stealing home in my career. So I think I probably did it, you know, probably maybe just under like 10 times. I've done it more than 5 or 6, but I've done it maybe less than 10 for sure. So it's exhilarating. I've never been able to have like a sign with the offensive player that's standing in the box. It's always kind of just like, You're either going off the pitcher or obviously you go when somebody picks over. If a lefty's on the mound, this is kind of like an unwritten rule. This is something to think about. So there's a lefty on the mound. It's first and third, right? So the lefty's back is to me at third. So I'm able to extend my lead, especially if the third baseman is not playing close to the bag. If it's a power hitter up, if Chris Bryant's up at the plate and I'm on third base, the third baseman's fucking playing back, dude. So like I can get off the bag. Because I'm off the bag, I have a quicker chance to get to home. The first baseman, if he's smart and has an idea of what's going on, will see that and will get a bigger lead and purposely draw a throw over to get picked off so that I go home. And if you orchestrate it, it's just a total like mess. Everybody doesn't know what's going on. That split second of just like having to process it and react, the first baseman's already late. You know what I mean? So it's like you can orchestrate it. Having a good, co-host on the bases is just sometimes as important as like just making it happen yourself, dude. Especially when you have to steal home, dude. You got to get crafty with it sometimes.
That's always my favorite part of it because it catches everybody off guard. I think I don't know. It was like Yelich was doing against the Marlins, and like the catcher was taking forever. He was like lollipopping the throws back to
Yeah,
the
dude.
pitcher.
Yep.
Is that's
That's
is so
badass.
it's cool to hear that there's like an anatomy or like a theme that you guys look for when you're trying to like steal home. There's a lot that goes into that.
There's a lot that goes into it. It's also like it's all or nothing, bro. So if you make, the first or second out at home plate trying to steal home in a big situation, it's not really a good look. So there really isn't any excuse for getting thrown out at home trying to steal home. You know what I mean? It's got to be all or nothing, bro. And that's
Yeah.
yeah, that could definitely like change the game upside down on its head, turn the momentum over to any team. You know what I mean? It's just yeah, it's electrifying.
One of my favorite plays in baseball.
Same here, bro.
So I went to the Nats game yesterday and they called up James Wood for his debut. It was the coolest thing ever. Everybody was standing up the entire
Standing
time.
O.
But yeah, got his first hit, first at bat, worked like a 3-2 count. This guy's the best. I was listening to their GM before because they
He
were
didn't
like
go
had him.
2 though, right? That first hit, he stayed at first. Was it a hard ground ball
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
the gap, right? Kind of?
yeah, he smoked it. It was like 106 or something off the
I thought
bat.
he was gonna go to second. I thought he was gonna dig for it, bro. I'm crazy though.
He runs like a gazelle. This guy's
Yeah, he
awesome.
does. That's why I thought he was gonna try it. I was hoping that's what I was gonna see, but that's awesome, bro. That's so sick.
They're the thing is like their GM was talking about their organizational philosophy for prospects in AAA was just like he wants to have guys get I think he said a couple hundred ABs in AAA just to see their pitching before they get called up. And other organizations have handled it more famously different, like the Orioles and Jackson Holiday. Do you have an opinion on which prospect strategy yields the best results for guys in terms of like when they get the call?
Hmm. Man, I always wondered that. So I was always a fan of the dudes that I you know, I marvel at the scouts that are able to draft a kid out of high school in the top 10 picks. You know what I mean? Because they have big plans and they project that they are going to be able to accelerate their development and push them up to the top rather quickly, right? You're not going to draft a kid for 10 million bucks with the number 2 pick and stash him in the minor leagues for 7 years, right? That's not why you're shelling out 10 million bucks. So I was always like, dude, it blew my mind, the dudes that could fly through the minor leagues. I'm not necessarily sure which strategy is best, but the ones that could like dude, if I got drafted out of high school and I went into the minor leagues, dude, I would have never made it. I needed that development in college. I needed that development in A ball, like all the way through. You know what, man? I definitely think a strategy of keeping them together, keeping that prospect around or with the team in spring training. Obviously, that is a commonplace, right? You'll see a top 10 prospect that maybe is in high A or, A ball that might not deserve to be in major league spring training. He might get his feet wet and get acclimated with the team, have him in for spring training and like get him acclimated, get his feet wet to how it operates in the big house with the big boys. I think the quicker that you can get the prospect, especially younger, lower level, like acclimated to that situation with the team and getting them feeling comfortable, the easier the transition might be. Dude, you get up there and it's like It is the bright lights. There are cameras everywhere, bro. It is nuts. So, like, if you aren't developed up here, oh my God, I could not imagine. Could not imagine. Shrivel up into a raisin, dude, if you're not mentally strong enough up there. So, what prospect strategy, dude? You know, a nice meet and greet and stay in spring training where the stats don't matter, get them acclimated and in the lineup. I'm sure that's a great strategy. I always thought that breaking with a team and staying there through the longevity, having longevity that makes you feel a part of it. When I got called up, traded or sent it was always like I was going up somewhere to a different team and having to establish those new relationships again, right? If I got traded over to the Twins, I have to like meet everybody again and try to like fit in. If I get, I go to their AAA first. I got to meet all those guys and build relationships. I'm just trying to stay afloat and hit, 250. And it's, dude, the mental and emotional side of things takes a toll. Dude, prospect strategy. I'm not 100% sure. I have a insane respect for the scouts that make the high leverage decisions and taking chances on these top picks. And then the front office staff that propel these guys up into the big leagues with, necessary development, adequate tools to maximize, and then it pulling off, right? Like look at Julio Rodriguez, bro. Look what the Mariners did to Julio Rodriguez. I'm not sure how they developed that kid, but you look at that guy and you're like, okay, that guy is different. He's special. There's something about him, right? He's got the character, he's got the makeup, he's got the charisma. He talks the talk, he walks the walk. But that guy was fucking developed from the Mariners from behind closed doors. Yeah, they got a raw, beautiful baseball player, right? That can hit the ball 400 feet and he's a leader and like he's smart. But like that guy was molded by the Seattle Mariners behind the scenes and they developed that guy. And like that's how it goes. And that's how it was for me. I was developed by the Seattle Mariners. So like I think obviously just having them around, getting them reps in with the big boys and like, you know, pairing somebody with like I think about it, I do rundown drills, right, with the big team. Kyle Seager and like Willie Bloomquist, the old school Mariners and stuff, doing pickles and rundowns with them and like getting acclimated with them. It got me like comfortable being in that situation, dude. I hope that answers that. That was an awesome question, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just like every year at the end of March, all the fan bases come together and there's like an unspoken thing. We're just going to complain if our top prospect doesn't break with the big club. We're going to try to bully the GM into, having him on the active roster. Um, it's you can set your watch to it. It's every year. Well, it's like what the Orioles did with Holiday this year was like, they sent him down for a little bit. He's hitting 400 in AAA. It's like, all right, I don't know if we can keep him down anymore. He comes up and he like has like 2 hits or something. Like, do you think that experience of like going through the struggles early on will be more beneficial for guys like Jackson, where it's like, all right, I know I have something I can build off of. Like, do you think that's gonna be more beneficial?
Dude, I think the failure is going to be beneficial. So it's tough when Jackson Holiday is just starting to fail at the biggest level possible. So like Jackson Holiday has had success. Jackson Holiday has thrived. I don't know what the past tense of that is. Thrived. Yeah, he's thrived at every level that he's been at, right? I've always been told that major league organizations want to see how you handle adversity, how they handle failure. That's why you might have some players might have prolonged times in the minor leagues than others. Obviously, like the stars have to align for you to get to the big leagues. But these major league organizations and these major league front offices want to know how you handle adversity. Are you able and like mentally capable of overcoming adversity? Will you hinder like the results of your teammates and be a distraction to your teammates because you can't go through adversity? Like they want to see how you can handle all that shit before they call you to the big show and you make 10 grand a day, right? Or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, and the stats really do matter. And like there's hundreds of millions of dollars on the line if you don't win. So they want to see that you're battle tested and proven and like you can overcome the bullshit. Not everybody's going to hit 300 for sure, but for Jackson Holiday, in my unprofessional opinion here, yeah, dude's ready. He's going to be one of the greats, but he is struggling or he was going through that on the biggest stage. So it's tough to hide in that situation, right? Where if he was in AA, you know, and like he was still going through this, he might be able to overcome it a little bit easier, right? He's one of the best baseball players in the world. He's going to be fine, but there's nowhere to hide when you're failing for the first time on this stage. And it's like, hey, why isn't this like why isn't the show pony just fucking showing out right now? You know what I mean? But like this is I always felt the trials and tribulations just made you battle tested and like people wanted to see that, especially the organizations making decisions.
We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from the official sponsor of Not For Long Media and the Breaking Bats podcast, the original Fudge Kitchen. It is a staple of the Jersey Shore with 6 locations in Cape May, Wildwood, North Wildwood, Stone Harbor, and Ocean City. The original Fudge Kitchen makes all of their fudge in store, guaranteeing a delicious product, so stop by and let them know that Not For Long Media and Breaking Bats sent you. Check them out online at fudgekitchens.com as they are shipping fudge and sweet treats all across the country. Now back to the episode. You mentioned that if you were drafted out of high school, there's no chance you would have made it. But there's some organizations that like draft a college hitter and then fast forward the minor leagues to be like 2 weeks long and then just get called up the same year. The Angels do that a lot. That's the first
Nolan.
I like, yeah, Nolan Shanuel or whatever. He like I think he played like 10 games or something in the minors. He was up immediately.
Yeah.
Is that do you think that's a harder challenge for guys to like not have the minor league reps and to have, like you said, just all their struggles be at the big league level?
Dude, the guys that are capable of doing that, obviously if you know, what how am I going to kind of relate this to, let's talk about like the learning accelerated programs for like gifted kids in school. This guy's got an IQ of 140 and we're doing second grade rating. This guy should not be in the class. You know what I mean? This guy should be taking accelerated. You ever seen that show, Young Sheldon, where the dude's got he's just
Yeah.
brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's that guy's in college and he's 8 years old. You know what I mean? It's the dudes that can handle it. Nolan from FAU that got drafted in the first round, then like spent a couple weeks in the minor leagues, and then he's on the big stage with Mike Trout. It's like that guy is mentally capable. He's physically capable. And dude, they put you through rigorous testing. There are some outliers, bro, where it's like, hey, this guy is major league ready. Look at Paul Skeens. We were all like, dude, this guy should not be in the minor leagues anymore. You know what I mean? Like some dudes can handle it, some dudes can't. And yeah, I do. I marvel at those guys, man.
Yeah. Or I think there's a lot of guys that like they'll just skip AAA entirely. Like if you're crushing it at AA, like I think Juan
Yeah.
Soto is like this. Juan Soto never played in AAA. He was just like, this kid's ready. What is the value of AAA? Like what does AAA help prepare guys for the big league level to do?
So there are 2 points to that I wanted to break down. So AAA prepares you for it's more of like it's the mini big leagues, right? So like the trips are different, you travel different. It's more of a grind actually in AAA, I feel like, than AA, at least like coming from the Arkansas, the Texas League to go into the Pacific Coast League, dude, where you have to wake up at 3 a.m. You had a 7 o'clock game the night before, but you got to wake up at 3 a.m. to go to the airport for a 5 o'clock flight to get into like Colorado City, dude, for a 7 o'clock game. You know what I mean? It makes no sense, but like that's repeated. The treatment's different. Obviously, it's like you're in a mix of more veteran guys, but yeah, I think at least for me, development wise, it was necessary for me to hit every step. If I went straight from AA to the big leagues, I would be like blown away, dude. I needed to get my bearings in AAA for sure. The pitching's different. They're way more veteran players. You kind of learn that there's a pecking order because you come from AA, and it's like, oh, I'm in AAA for the first time. I'm a big dog. But then you look around, it's like these guys have been in AAA for fucking 6 years. They all got big league time. You know what I mean? They're down here. They're salty. They were just in the big leagues last week. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, there's a pecking order. Like you kind of learn the dynamics more of a clubhouse where it's like, okay, you learn the veteran leadership. Like this guy is 36 years old in AAA. He's got 8 years of big league time. He's kind of like down here trying to make his way back up. You interact with those guys. John Neese was that guy for me. The starting pitcher, left-handed for the Mets. I shared a locker with John Neese, 2018, and like that's a major league veteran that like balled out in the big leagues and made some money. And like he kind of showed me the ropes. You know what I mean? Like just kind of interacting with him, and that was necessary for my development. Some teams will not send their top arms to AAA if it is high elevation. Like the Pacific Coast League is notorious for the ball flying. So like the Arkansas Travelers, which were the AA for the Mariners, they all fucking just call bullpen arms out of there. Why would I send that bullpen arm, Art Warren, to AAA Tacoma where a pop up could potentially go out, or like his stats are going to be elevated. Like if you showed out in you know the pitcher friendly, the pitcher dominant league, it's like I don't know, dude. The bullpen arms I always felt like were way more electric in Double A than Triple A, and some teams are like they'll usually call up from Double A more so than Triple A. You know what I mean? It's weird. Different teams have different vibes.
It's so funny you brought up like the veteran presence at AAA. I went to a Norfolk Tides game for the first time not that long ago, and like they were just doing like the lineups. I'm like, oh, I know that guy. I know that guy. This guy's 36. This guy's
Yeah,
like
dude.
38 somehow. It's like these. There's a lot of veteran, actually very veteran guys at AAA. What's the dynamic like in the locker room where you have these veteran guys? Are they more prone to being kind of salty about the fact that they're still there? Are some of the guys just like happy to be there and continue to make a little money off the game? Like what is a AAA locker room dynamic like?
Dude, so exactly what you said. It's an even mix of both. So it's the luck of the draw, right? You can't pick your teammates. Sometimes you're blessed with, you know, Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, who's just always down on his luck. He should be in the big leagues. He's got 4 years of service time. He played overseas. He should be in the big leagues. Woe is me. You're always going to have those guys. Always going to have those guys that are just fucking lucky to be there, and they're happy, and they're just like, this is what they want to be doing. And like, maybe they got to the big leagues, maybe they didn't. There's always a happy medium, but there's always like veteran leadership. And so, yeah, that's valued. Obviously, now they've made adjustments to roster sizes, right? So minor league spots, especially at the upper minor league levels, are more hard to come by, right? You see more and more guys out of baseball now where you're like, oh shit, Mike Hermosillo was just, hitting 300 a year or two ago, and now he's out, right? He just hit 10 home runs and 50 at bats or whatever it was for AAA Yankees, and he can't get a job this year. Like it makes no sense. Like, yeah, those spots are even, dude. There's less and less spots. Veteran leadership is always going to like be in style. Just being able to service that and fit that into pieces of the game, pieces of your team, dude. And yeah, it's crazy, dude. You get that even there's different styles of older guys, and like if they're salty, if they're kind of like a guiding, shining light, right? Are they going to be positive, negative, dude? It's always kind of like a crapshoot.
Ew. Okay. I've always wondered
Yeah,
about that. Yeah. Especially when somebody has like 10 years of service time and you're like, why? What's your
yeah,
story?
dude. Yeah. So just from what I've noticed, man, it's kind of has something to do with it, maybe not. I've always noticed that the superstar dudes with 10 years of service time made a couple $1,000,000, right? They were always the nicest, most humblest, not like everything stinks kind of guys. Obviously, right? You make money, you're in the big leagues for a while, but it was always the dudes that were fringe, that were like up and down or just on the cusp and could never get there. They were always the dicks, bro. Honestly, they were
Mhm.
always the dicks. So I felt like I always got along with, the bigger name dudes that were like maybe tough to approach, or like, hey, I don't want to like talk too loud around this guy because he's, it's Robinson Cano, or, that's Nelson Cruz. Like I got to be in line around him. You know what I mean? I always felt like those were the dudes that I could just like BS with, as opposed to, and they were always like happy go lucky, obviously. But yeah, pretty broad example right there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going back and looking. Like I said, I'm in DC. Did you play with Jason Worth?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So I actually just talked to him the other week. So yeah, he just won the Derby, right?
Mhm.
I played with him in 2018, Tacoma Rainiers, dude. So I came up watching. I was born in Philly, grew up out that way. So like I always watched the Phillies, and so I watched them win the World Series in 2008, dude. I was at the parade. That was awesome. So then I ended up getting to share a locker room with that guy for a little bit, and have kept in touch with him, since our careers have ended.
What's he like? I loved him when he was in DC. The Worthquakes, just like he just seemed like the ultimate vibes guy. And he comes on the Nationals TV broadcast now and talks about stuff. He just seems like an awesome dude. What was Jason Worth like?
Jason Worth was a fucking beauty, man. Just an absolute beauty, and just he's awesome, bro. He's awesome. He was extremely humble. He's extremely hilarious. He's kind of just like a regular dude. It's just he's ginormous. He's got a giant personality. But he's so nice. He's so humble. And yeah, he's just electric, man. He's a good dude. And we were talking like immediately, dude. I was asking him all about Philadelphia, about World Series, about how much money he was making. Like just right off the bat, I could just it was awesome, man. He was eating it up, man. He's a great dude.
It was yeah, it was such a cool thing that he, like, wanted to keep playing even though he made, like, $200 million playing baseball that he's like, "You know what? I'll take a AAA deal for Seattle." Like, that's I guess it just kinda speaks to kinda who he is, if just, like, he's not too proud to be like, "You know what? I'll try to make it again one more time." I think the injury is kinda what derailed him, but, so what is it like for a younger guy like yourself when somebody like that's in the locker room with you? Like, are other guys trying to get advice from him? Like, were you able to get, like, pearls of wisdom from older guys like him?
Absolutely. Absolutely, dude. And so, like, before I get into that, like, talking about I think he was making 2 million or 10 million that year, right? And so I think that money was, like, guaranteed, so, like, he didn't even have to be there. And so that dude was still banging out workouts pregame. So I don't even remember how old he was when he was playing with Tacoma when I was with him in 2018, but, like, he didn't have to be there. And he's still getting after it pregame, and he's still breaking down film, and he's still, like, shooting the shit with the boys. Like, I learned I dude, it was awesome. So, yeah, dude, I tried to spend as much time as humanly possible with that dude up until, like, I felt like I was annoying him, you know? I try to hang out with that guy off the field. I wanted to see how a top tier professional and a dude that, has a larger than life reputation and then backs it up. I wanted to see how that dude goes about his business. So, like, if you wanna be like somebody, which I always aspired to, like, play like the guys that I, you know, looked up to on the field, Chase Utley, Shane Victorino, Jason Worth. Dude, I'm watching these guys win a World Series, J-Roll. Like, I wanna be like all those guys, you know? And so, yeah, being able to share a locker room with them, dude, I would ask him so many questions. Oh my god. Felt bad for the guy, And he treated us off the field with, he'd take care of dinners and stuff, and it was cool, bro. You got to see what that veteran leadership was like and how he went about his business, how much he cared. Dude, is a pro's pro. So, like, I got value by being his teammate before I got to the big leagues. If that makes sense. So, like, that veteran presence and leadership, dude, it's valuable as hell.
Yeah. That's such a cool thing. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, that's such a cool thing that happened in baseball. Like that guys are like that. I had a question because we've never actually had anybody from the Minnesota Twins organization on. So you're kind of a first. So I had a question
Sweet.
about just the Twins organizationally. So 2019 was the year that you were there. They didn't have Joe Mauer. They had a rookie manager, and they set MLB records for home runs. Like what do you remember about Minnesota and that 2019 team in particular?
I remember I remember that locker room being tight as fuck. So I remember that locker room was like that. And so I came in as a dude not knowing anybody, and I knew Nelson Cruz from, like, over in Seattle, where I would be a minor leaguer and he would be a major leaguer, and I'd be like, "Mr. Cruz, can I feed the tea for you as you're hitting in the cage?" And, like, same thing as Jason Worth. I just pepper him with questions. You know what I mean? Just try to, like, hang around him, emulate him, kind of, like, try to do what he's doing because I wanted to be like him, right? And so that locker room was tight. I felt like immediately I was just kind of, like, involved. I felt like I was part of the team immediately, even though this is the biggest moment of my career. I get to debut in the big leagues. Like, it's about the team. So one thing that I remember for sure was Rocco Baldelli. I've never experienced this before. Every single game in BP would walk in the outfield and talk to each guy. Everybody. He would talk to everybody during BP. And, like, we just shoot the shit with them for a minute or two and then move on to the next guy and, like, check in on everybody, take the temperature of everybody, like, from the top guy down to the bottom guy, dude. He was doing that. And that I always thought that was really cool. The team there would be team meetings, right? There would be team meetings about, stuff going on. Not to get too much into it, obviously, like, there were big games there towards the end where, the postseason was at large and, like, you could make the postseason, right? Make the wild card. And so there would be, like, team meetings and stuff about, trying to rally the troops a little bit. And, dude, it just, like, from top to bottom, everybody was close knit. And that's an outsider saying it, coming in, just getting traded and thrust into this lifestyle. It's like, okay, these guys, they all care. Like 1 through 9, they care. They actually want to win. No one's really like people. Of course, everybody wants to hit 300, right, to make 100 million bucks. But like everybody's trying to win, you know. And I felt that, dude. And it was like communicated well from Rocco, from Shelton, like J Ro, like dude, from the top down. And like I could text those guys. You know, I've texted Rocco Baldelli probably a couple months ago. I'm gonna ask him to be on my podcast when he gets a chance, right? But like if I texted Rocco Baldelli, he would text me back. You know, like still to this day. And that's how it is. That's how it was with all those guys. You know, it's crazy, dude.
I really like Rocco Baldelli.
Oh,
Obviously he's had some viral moments this year with like the rally sausage, and he just seems like the ultimate, like you said, like the ultimate like players manager, ultimate good vibes guy. I had a question about just like one of the things is I don't know a lot about the Twins organizations, why I asked, but I read that some people aren't as big of a fan of like the analytics approach, but I think that just kind of like speaks to like being a modern manager where it's like a lot of his decisions aren't made in the dugout. They're kind of made elsewhere, like on the analytics side. Um, do players accept the fact that like a lot of the decisions aren't made by Rocco or whoever the manager is? Like, is that a thing in baseball where it's like the manager is not really pressing the buttons?
dude, you know, I always question that. I always question that. I honestly, dude, to be completely transparent, I would tune that out. I wasn't even aware who was making decisions most of the time. I was so focused on like, okay, I got an AB coming up, or okay, like this is what the pitchers like, dude. I wasn't even aware. Obviously, like towards the back end of my career, I was playing a little bit less, and so I would be able to see stuff like that with the Iowa Cubs. You know, my last year in 2021, how Marty Peavy would call some games and stuff, but from the major league level, dude, I was always just kind of like my eyes were wide. I'm like, oh my god, I'm in the big leagues, dude. So I didn't necessarily get to see all that stuff. I know from having still the scouting reports to this day, I still have them like in my notebook from the big leagues. Back then, it's like they have data and they track everything, even on the bases, bro. So it's like, okay, 2-0 count, you're going to be a green light here because he's a 1-4 to plate, as opposed to a 1-2 usually in a a pitcher's count. Dude, they got shit like that, you know. And now some players can have earphones in, so it's going to make it. I don't even know that whole dynamic, bro. But yeah, I always wondered, who calls the shots, dude. Like, where does that come from? But every manager, I guess, has a different style and like different deal in place, right? With the GM, Bruce Bochy, who's been around for 900 years. No disrespect, one of the greats. I don't know how many years he's been around, right? Like that's exaggerating. That's not disrespect, but like I'm sure that guy has a long leash and like he can do whatever, like he can call a game. Whereas a first year manager, right? Maybe that's not something that he has the leash or the capacity of being able to do. Maybe he's surrounded by a bench coach that is a veteran that is maybe like in the ear of the GM, right? Like he's maybe, dude, there's weird dynamics like that behind the scenes. But yeah, I always kind of wondered like how analytics drove decisions. And dude, I just know that they track everything, like everything, bro. They track everything.
It's
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 crazy.
crazy to think that yeah, like a lot of these like where who makes the decisions, like like you said, if there's a team with a manager that's kind of more old school, I'm sure he's more the ones making like starting pitcher pulling decisions and which bullpen arm goes where. But I always just think that like the best managers now are kind of like the Roccos, the Aaron Boones that are like the guys who are going to the media and are going to bat for their players, the ones who are in the locker room that the guys all love. Like I think that's kind of what the perfect manager now is, where even a former player like your guys, like I think that's kind of where the game is now, right?
Yeah, dude, I could not agree more, brother. Could not agree more. It's crazy to see kind of how like everything is transpiring and it's dude, it's wild. I know that like sometimes there are hindrances. There are players that need to play like every day, especially in AAA, right? I know that like the AAA manager might not necessarily make the lineup, if that makes sense. So like there's a whole lot of factors that go into it. On the big league level, dude, it's crazy, bro. I don't even know who makes decisions. I'm sure it's different for every team, you know?
Yeah. All right, a couple last questions for you. So when you look around the game today, you're watching games at home now. Are there teams or players that like? What has surprised you the most so far in this 2024 MLB season?
Um, what surprised me, dude? I don't know. I don't man, that's a really good question. What has surprised me? So obviously, like the injuries, right? The elbow injuries has surprised me. Um, just overall, it's got me questioning like what tactics are right. What are we chasing? Are we chasing wins? Are we chasing analytics? Like, would you rather have you know, 11,568 RPMs on your fastball, or would you rather blow out? Like, I don't know. I think one gets you paid and one doesn't. As crazy as that sounds. So, like, that surprised me a little bit. Um, Aside from that, dude, I don't watch much Major League Baseball. I watch more of the college stuff. You know what I mean? Like the College World Series and stuff, but the injuries are definitely like something that's, you read about, even just like regarding the Phillies. Like Harper and Schwarber both went down this week with a hammy and a groin. Like, those are big boys. It's not like they're just little fragile men, right? So it's I don't know, man. Injuries are definitely something that have like stood out so far to me.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, especially for the pitching perspective of just like every good pitcher, it feels like has gone down already with an arm
Yeah, bro.
injury. Yeah, I think that's. I don't know what's going to be done about that or what we could fix, but it feels more like big systemic problem. So I don't know who's going to. Somebody smarter than myself probably figure that out. Um, Last couple questions for you. So being in the minor leagues, was there a couple minor league promotions that you remember that kind of stuck out?
Yeah. Dude, my high A, Eddie Menchaca. So I was just killing it, dude. I was killing it. I was hitting like 340 games or something. Uh 296 in 39 games, but who's counting? And so I remember that I was sitting that day and I'm like, dude, how it was usually going is I'd play two and then I'd sit one. I'd play two and then I sit one. And it was like a rotation. And so I remember that I was sitting one game against the Visalia Rawhide in high A. California League that I don't even think exists anymore. And he called me into the office afterwards and he was like, "Do you know why you're sitting?" I was like, "No." He's like, well, he was like making me feel all bad about it. And he's like, "Dude, why weren't you watching the game? Like, do you know why you were sitting? Like, were you paying attention to this game at all?" And it was an old, like, kind of rundown locker room, like rundown field. It was an old school field. And so I remember getting locked in the bathroom by accident. I fucking got locked in the bathroom. It's hot. And I had to climb through like the side vent to get out. It was just kind of like a weird situation. And so, like, he was asking me about that. He's like, "Dude, were you messing around on the bench? Like, do you know why you were sitting where you watched?" I'm like, dude. He's like, "I'm just fucking with you. You're going up to double A." And like everybody kind of knew it. And yeah, it was wild, bro. That was nuts. That's probably one that stood out, dude. That's probably the one that definitely stood out the most.
Love that. Yeah, you always hear about guys' experiences in the minor leagues, just like sitting on a bus for 16 hours and just like eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and it just feels like the ultimate, just like guys being dudes down there in the minor leagues.
100%,
Um,
dude.
I always like to end with this question: what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received is you can't get too high when you win and you can't get too low when you lose, right? And the cream always rises to the top, man. Cream always rises to the top, always. So like even if you're in the 9 hole, even if you are on JV, even if you got cut from your team your junior year of high school, like I did, and then you fuck around and you make it your senior year of high school and you get seen, like no matter what it is, dude, like the cream always rises to the top, dude. I think that's probably the best piece of advice I ever got.
I didn't know you got cut your junior year of high school. Is that like that just goes into feeding more of like that mentality you had back in the day? I guess.
So I was on my varsity team my junior year of high school. I was talking about like a team that I tried out for. It's called the Carpenter Cup. So it was like kind of like a in your county they would pick guys, and I tried out for it my junior year. I got cut, and I made it my senior year, and that's where I got seen.
Wow. Yeah.
Crazy.
In a very long professional baseball career after that. So yeah, they obviously missed something back in the day.
Appreciate that,
Um,
dude. That's what I said.
yeah. Dude, this has been incredible. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today. I hope everybody checks out the 9 Hole podcast that Ian does. It's so good. I really appreciate your time, and yeah, hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Oh, Justin, dude, this was sick, man. Let me know if I can ever do anything for you. Come back on here. I would love to. Bro, this is awesome. Thanks for your time, bro.